There's a woman standing in front of three of the most powerful judges in American music. She's wearing a dress she made herself. Her brother is beside her with a guitar, and she's about to sing a song about string cheese. That's the image that stopped millions of people mid-scroll. And most of them assumed they already knew the story. Another wholesome small-town mom, another feel-good audition clip that would fade out by episode 3. But here we are, months later, and Hannah Harper isn't fading anywhere. She just pulled 27.7% of fan votes heading into the top 11, more than double her nearest competition. And the more you dig into where she actually came from, the more obvious it becomes that this was never a fluke. Because what the cameras showed you and what actually built this woman are two very different things. Hannah Harper grew up in Bunker, Missouri. And I don't mean small town, I mean Reynolds County, deep in the Ozark foothills. The kind of place where your dad working at the lead mine is just a normal Tuesday. That's exactly where her father, Galen, was working before he made a decision that most people in his position would never make. He quit, walked away from steady income, loaded his entire family onto a 40-foot bright red tour bus, and hit the road to play bluegrass gospel music for the Lord. Hannah was 9 years old. From that point on, home was a bus. School was whatever state they were passing through, and the stage, whether it was a church hall in Texas or a festival in the Carolinas, was just part of the daily routine. What most people don't know is that this family wasn't just out there playing hymns and hoping for the best. The Harper Collective, as the band was known, won the SPBGMA International Band Contest in 2010 and went on to record 2 albums for Pisgah Ridge and Crossroads Records. This was a professional touring bluegrass act. Hannah spent 7 years performing at a level most aspiring musicians never reach. By the time she was 16, she had more stage hours under her belt than artists twice her age. That context matters a lot, because the image of the nervous mom in the patchwork dress doesn't quite line up with someone who spent her entire childhood sleeping on a tour bus and performing coast to coast. She knows exactly what she's doing up there. She just doesn't wear it like a badge. The band eventually wound down, and the family came off the road. Hannah settled in Birch Tree, Missouri, where the Harpers joined a local worship team. It was there she met Devin Mendenhall. They married when she was 18. By 19, they were parents. Here's the part that gets skipped in every feel-good recap segment. Hannah spent years deliberately choosing not to pursue a solo career. Not because she couldn't, she had the talent, she had the background, she'd been performing professionally since she was a child. She held back because she wasn't sure it was the right move. She described it as bathing the idea in prayer, not wanting to, as she put it, tread on ground that wasn't appointed for her feet. That's not stage fright. That's someone who genuinely had to be convinced this was the path she was supposed to walk. The fact that she's on American Idol at all is almost an accident. Then her youngest son was born, and things got hard in a way she wasn't prepared for. Postpartum depression hit her during what should have been an ordinary afternoon. 3 boys, all crying at the same time, laundry piling up. It was 4 in the afternoon, and she realized she hadn't eaten all day. She sat down on the couch and, by her own account, threw herself a pity party. She was praying for the Lord to calm her spirit when her youngest crawled into her lap with a piece of string cheese he couldn't open himself. Just a kid. Just a snack. But something about that moment broke through. She got up off the couch, sat down with a guitar, and wrote the song that would eventually change everything. She recorded it in a converted sawmill studio, a bare-bones space that her brother had transformed, and posted it quietly to Facebook on Mother's Day 2025. Just for friends and family. Just to put it somewhere. Within months, it hit number 14 on the Billboard Country Digital Songs chart, off a Facebook post. Then American Idol came calling, except Hannah didn't believe it at first. A recruiter reached out to her online, and she did what most people would do. She ignored it. Assumed it was spam. The recruiter came back. She ignored it again. It took multiple attempts before she was finally convinced the message was legitimate, and even then she wrestled with whether this was something she was meant to do. She's talked about being in prayer over the decision, not wanting to step into something that wasn't hers to step into. When she finally walked into that audition room at Belmont University in Nashville, she was wearing a handmade patchwork dress she'd sewn herself, standing beside her brother Dalton, who had his guitar. She told the judges about the postpartum depression, about the couch, about the cheese, and before she'd sung a single note, Carrie Underwood, a mother of 2 boys herself, was already emotional. Then she opened her mouth and sang. All 3 judges voted yes. Luke Bryan compared her to Casey Musgraves. Lionel Richie pulled out Dolly Parton as a reference point for the kind of storyteller he saw in her. Carrie Underwood told her she was going to be thinking about her long after she left the room. The audition clip hit 18 million views on TikTok. Grammy-winning artist Leanne Womack publicly reached out after it aired. Hannah's brother secretly filmed her reaction when she saw the message, full-on fangirling in the car, by her own description. None of that was manufactured. She brought her real life onto that stage, and the real life turned out to be more compelling than anything a TV producer could have scripted. But then the internet decided to write its own version of her story. Somewhere around March 2026, a rumor started spreading across social media that Hannah Harper had secretly signed a record deal with Dolly Parton's Butterfly Records and quietly left the competition. The story spread fast. It had the kind of detail that makes people believe something, a label name, a narrative arc, a reason, and it was completely fabricated. AI-generated misinformation, dressed up to look like breaking news. Hannah had to personally go on Instagram to shut it down. She wrote that the top 20 contestant did not sign a contract and leave the competition, and called out the amount of AI-generated false information circulating about her own life as honestly mind-blowing. Think about what that means for a second. This is a woman who spent years carefully deciding whether she was ready to step into the spotlight, who wrestled with the decision to audition, who carries a guitar strap embroidered with drawings from her kids as a reminder of why she's doing any of this, and the internet just invents an exit storyline for her and runs with it. The irony is almost poetic. The most authentic person in the competition, and social media tried to put fake words in her mouth. What nobody seems to say out loud is this: Hannah Harper doesn't want what American Idol traditionally sells. Most contestants on this show are chasing the record deal, the radio play, the industry door that the show can crack open. Hannah has talked consistently about every stage being a ministry opportunity. She's described the competition as temporary, the separation from her family as something she's reminding herself to endure, not something she's celebrating. She's not performing for stardom. She performs because, to her, it's the same thing she's always done. Whether it was a church in rural Missouri or a stage with a national audience watching, that creates a strange dynamic. She's a woman with 7 years of professional performing experience, a Billboard charting original song, endorsement from country music legends, and the kind of voice that makes Jody Messina cry watching from her living room. On paper, she's the most dangerous contestant in this competition. But she carries it all lightly enough that she still looks like the mom in the homemade dress. Maybe that's the whole point. Maybe the performance that lands hardest is the one where the person on stage isn't performing at all. The top 11 takes the stage tonight, and whatever happens from here, whether Hannah Harper wins this thing, finishes second, or walks off at some point between now and the finale, the song was already written before any of this started. The story was already moving before the cameras showed up. American Idol didn't create Hannah Harper, it just introduced her to the rest of the world. And based on what the rest of the world is saying back, they're not done listening.